Dr. Sabharwala, I want to come back to your personal story. I want all three of you to share a little bit of your personal struggle, your personal story, your personal feelings at this point, because we're really trying to understand doctors more. So let's start with your family. As I said, you come from a family that has given us how many, what is the precise count? Is it
So now
150?
we are
What is the
154 doctors. Yeah, 154.
154
Yeah,
doctors?
so I label my daughter as 153 and my son as 154. So that's the
Amazing.
story. That's the story I've been always so proud of, and we've enjoyed it, and we've always feel so blessed. So I when I was born, like if I really tell you that I've seen that those 40 years, like I'm now 50 plus, so right. So I saw those 40 years of change. When my grandparents used to practice, I used to be in the hospital. My parents, you can see in the picture also. I mean, they're
Yeah.
all, and my grandfather used to say, you have to go out also, get the best of degrees. It's not about just following the Jeevan trend. You go to, so I went to UK, did my masters. They went to US, but I was always determined to come back. That was the best part of a family. How it became 1919 and 1920. My great grandfather just heard Gandhi ji, and he said Swadeshi, and just stuck him, and he came back home, and he told my great grandmother that all your jewelry is being sold, will not have anything, and every child from today will become an Indian doctor, and we'll have Indian treatment. And that's how it
Yeah.
started. And you imagine, okay, maybe at that time nobody used to question, but
But
then
when you were young, did you ever think that you would be anything but a doctor, or it was
no,
just considered a given that everybody in your
no,
family has to be a doctor?
nobody asked me that. See, it was always my wish. So somehow they inculcated that into us by showing us all the
Yeah,
positive things, and there were a lot of positive
yeah,
at that time. And
yeah,
nobody asked me doctor. They used to ask me which specialty. So it was like you are becoming a surgeon and my
yeah.
grandfather was so straightforward. He said you may marry anybody. At 30 years back, he said you may marry a boy or a girl. I am not bothered, but it has to be a doctor. So that was the determination he had. And my children also, we never told them, we just showed them. They used to come to see my
Yeah,
sessions on live and all that.
yeah.
So that's how it became, it
Would
became part of.
you would you be heartbroken if your children were to leave medicine? Would you be
Absolutely.
heartbroken?
See, I'm really of old school thought. Actually, my generation, a lot of my friends, I've seen them, my relations outside, they have tried their level best that their children don't become. But deep inside, my wife did have this apprehension that whether, but deep inside, I knew that I hope they become doctors. And now also, I always hope that they follow this profession and do the service, whatever may come,
Yeah.
whatever may come.
Yeah, so Dr. Nabanita, while most of the country has stood behind the doctors' protests, there have also been those who have sort of been critical, or how can you leave patients? We have seen doctors taking OPDs to the streets. And I know when we were talking before this program, you said a lot of people don't understand our lives. A lot of people don't understand what we go through, what vulnerability we face. Even as we were seeing the protests around Kolkata, we had a young female doctor in Mumbai attacked by a drunk patient and his relatives. In COVID, during COVID years, we have seen not just doctors come under attack. I remember covering the heartbreaking story of a doctor in Chennai who couldn't get a place to be buried, even though he had served at that time of great risk to himself, because at that time the unscientific belief was that if the body comes near, then somehow we'll also get COVID. His ambulance was pelted with stones. It was all horrible. So I want you to speak a little bit about the vulnerability of being a doctor and what you think non-doctors do not understand.
The medical profession is a very unique profession where uh, just any 18-year-old who's coming out of school goes into various lines. One is a medicine, which is a very coveted line. And some of the most meritorious brains get into the system by a very rigorous process. Now it is NEET. In our time, it was DPMT, PMTs, whatever. But there are all meritorious students who are getting into the line. Now, most of the doctors are mentally prepared. It's going to be a tough 5 years of MBBS, and then it's going to be postgraduate, and then it's going to be more senior residency, super specializations. Everything we are prepared for. We know it's a long drawn journey, becoming a good doctor. But what the vulnerability we are facing now, with the public being against us for everything, the doctors getting blamed, so much of litigations, so much of consumer, I mean, while the lawyers are now out of it, the doctors are not out of it. So
You need to explain this. You were telling me that the lawyers are no longer covered by the Consumer Protection Act. I mean, like the Consumer Protection Act does not apply to lawyers, but it applies to
yes,
doctors. I was
yes,
shocked to
yes,
discover that it doesn't apply to lawyers. So, if you want to talk a little bit
yes.
about that,
Yes.
yeah,
So the thing is that now what has happened in the public domain, this image has come that the private practitioners are making a lot of money. So therefore, we have to really make their lives difficult. So once the patient is there, if the patient has any complication, God forbid the patient dies because the complications can lead to death, then the doctors are demonized. Now they have to people have to understand, the non-medical fraternity has to understand that doctors at the end of the day are not God. They do not change. They can only do their job with a lot of honesty, with sincerity, with a lot of hard work. They've put in years of studies to become what they are. And when they are trying to save patients, they're doing it with their heart and soul. But the final answer, the final the conclusion, whether the patient is saved or not in a very difficult situation, is just not the doctors who are responsible. If people don't understand that the doctors have done their job yet couldn't save, they will understand, okay, the doctor did his or her best and therefore couldn't save the lives, and we respect that. No, but what patients are doing in a government setup, they vandalize, they slap the nurses, the doctors, they're there. In the private setup, it is litigations. So it has become a very sad story in this country. 30 years back, I'm sure the situation was, the security part must have been as bad, but somehow people did not attack us. At least we didn't face that. At least never in my 7 years of internship and residency, walking through the corridors of Maulana Azad in the dead of the night, did I ever feel threatened that somebody is going to attack me. But today the
hmm,
situation seems to have changed. So
yeah.
there is this perception that has changed over time.
Leah, Dr. Leah, when Dr. Nabanita talks about vandalism by patients, the most striking example we've seen is not by patients, but a mob of 7,000 people. And if we can just play those images of the vandalism that we saw at RG Kaur, because today now the CISF has taken over. This is on the instructions of the Supreme Court. When you saw the vandals storming RG Kaur, right? Those are only some of those images that we saw. What did you feel? What did you think as a young resident?
Yeah, I'll tell you what was happening. It was 15th of August. It was midnight. So we had gone for a protest march in our neighborhood, Seize the Midnight. I think you would have heard about it. And we were very
Yeah,
happy. I felt for the first time that in the state of West Bengal, actually the entire nation, in different parts of the nation also, everybody was together. And finally, we were fighting for justice. Cut to, I come to home and I open my WhatsApp and I see so many messages saying that Ajikar is under attack. And
yeah,
it literally, I was paralyzed for a second because I was thinking my friends are there. Then I immediately texted my friend, like, are you safe, are you okay? So they said that we have she's a girl, by the way, I'm talking about a female friend of mine. She's
yeah,
living in the ladies hostel. She was there. She said that yes, we are at the moment fine, but the ER has been is in shambles. They have vandalized the entire ENT department, and every part of the boys' hostel was under attack. The girls' hostel was under attack. A lot of the wards were also under attack. We have just locked ourselves in the rooms, and we are very scared for our lives. We have just taken up whatever kind of weapon we could find. Even it was like we were discussing in our class groups also. We were thinking that okay, maybe other colleges may as well be under attack. We were scared of that as well. So we were telling our
yeah.
friends also that just grab anything that you get. A rod is fine, even hot boiling water. If you get, you just attack them, like anything that is
Hmm.
feasible, that's easily accessible to you, just be ready with it and be very alert. And I was just constantly asking my friends, are you okay, are you okay? So like the entire night, I think nobody, 15th August is
Nobody
the day
slept.
we, yeah, it's supposed to be the Independence Day for the country, right? I think in the history of our nation, no doctor or students would have spent being in fear. in fear of
Yeah.
being attacked, or if, like whether we will be living the next moment and will we be under attack the very next moment. I don't think so it has happened in
I was up. I was up all night that night, along with my team, getting frantic calls from doctors I did not know, saying, "Can you please help us? Can you please put our story out?" So I hear what you're saying.
yes.
Before I give the last words to Dr. Sabharwal and Dr. Nabanita, I just want to ask you. We learned from the Supreme Court hearings that a number of doctors, in particular women, have left RG Court. Their parents have called them back. They've said, "Come home." This could be the end of the medical dream for some women if their families do not consent. And unfortunately, young women still need the consent of their families, the financial support of their families. Have you, Dr. Leah, ever thought of, after what's happened, of not being a doctor?
um to be honest, I do love medicine, I do love the clinics very much. So as of now, I don't want to leave it. But if the situation doesn't get better, then yes, it did cross my mind that maybe I can do MBA, or maybe I can change careers as well. But to be honest, none of the doctors are here because they are here because they love their job. Let's be very clear with it. They are doing it because they really love medicine, they really love what they are doing. So
Yeah.
to think of such a drastic thing like a career change in our profession is very big step, because you've already first of all invested so many years in learning something that you actually love.
Yeah.
It's not that I want to leave medicine because I don't love medicine or whatever. The fear is the thing that I will not be safe, I might not come back home. That is the driving force behind this thought. It's
I mean,
not.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to process that sentence. I might not come home from work. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yes.
I want to give last comments, Dr. Nabanita, briefly, and then I'll ask Dr. Sabharwal to sum this up for us. The doctors' associations have decided to continue their protests. A lot of people might say, why are you still doing that? The Chief Justice has personally appealed. What are you looking for? I know that there is a pending legislation that doctors want passed. If you can come in, and then I'll give Dr. Sabharwal the closing word. Nabanita, please.
The protest cannot die at this moment, because though we are very grateful to our Chief Justice, Honorable Chief Justice, he has shown a lot of sympathy for the doctors, but a lot needs to be done on the ground. I mean, it is just the beginning. So we need to see some actual changes. And most importantly, what is happening to the perpetrators of that heinous crime that night on 9th of August at RG Kar? Are we getting to the bottom of it finally or not? Because without knowing that the perpetrators of that heinous crime are punished, why should the doctors get back to the cancelling of the protest? It's not possible. And secondly, now there's a task force that is going to look into the matters of doctor safety across the country. Now we need to see what the task force does, and it's not going to happen overnight. It will all take time. And if we just let go, just become complacent, just get back to our lives as usual, then things will not move. Because let me tell you, if you go into any medical college, any hospital, the state run, the government hospitals I'm talking about, especially in the capital here, and you look into the conditions, how the doctors are working there, the junior doctors, especially the women doctors don't have special rooms also. The toilets, if you go into, and if you do a little audit of that, you will know the pathetic condition in the capital of this country, and then you'll understand where the country as a whole is standing there. So we cannot just go back now.
Yeah, Dr. Sabharwal, I'll give you the last word. And when Dr. Nabanita talks about justice for the victim of rape and murder in RG Court, there is also serious concerns about how forensics may never find the evidence that is needed. The body was burnt. The father has said that it was burnt in haste, that he was too shocked to make an informed decision. There are concerns about other evidence having been tampered with. We simply don't know. And there are also questions about why the postmortem was done at the very same place where this doctor was murdered and raped. Can the integrity of the postmortem be trusted? With all of these mounting questions, Dr. Sabharwal, if you had to explain to people at large who are not from the medical community why doctors are still protesting, what would be your last word?
So definitely, I would again start with thanking the CJI. I mean, he came in and thanks to the Chief Justice of India. But I would absolutely, in one word, first say that we are devastated. We are still devastated. And the only
Yeah.
thing which can, there can be some repair of the whole thing is we are looking for the fast track justice. We can't just leave it in mid because we've been, told that everything will happen. Because if you remember, 1,600 doctors died in COVID, and everybody was like they made us god, and then immediately what happened after 3 months? So it's very short term,
Yeah.
right? So we have to
Yeah.
go till the end. Number one. Number two, the security and safety of the RDAs who are sitting on roads, they are my concern. They are our concern. The different associations, the FIMA, the FODA, the IMAJD, and there's so many youngsters. Even now, I am a
Yeah.
national and the DMA. So, and that we have to be very sure that is happening. And number three, last but not the least, is CPA. That is the Central Protection Act. That is the must for us. And we have to fight for that because it just says very simply that if the doctor faces violence, if there's a grievous injury, we need to be sure about a central legislation because that will only change the whole thing.